Thank you. Hi, everybody. Hi, I'm Don Scavia, and I'm going to introduce Martha Pollock, our provost, who's going to come up and welcome us and get this thing going. So Martha is the provost and the executive vice president for academic affairs. She also holds faculty appointments in the School of Information and the Department of Computer Science and Engineering. Martha also got the Sarah Goddard Power Award in recognition of her efforts to increase the representation of and climate for women and underrepresented minorities in science and engineering. Martha's a AAAS Fellow and has been widely recognized for her work in artificial intelligence, which helped her a lot when I reported to her in the first part of the program. So Martha, please come up.
So hi everybody, I am really super excited to be here and to welcome you all to the 10th anniversary celebration for the Graham Sustainability Institute. It's really just wonderful to be celebrating the accomplishments of this institute and the vision of Don Graham that led to its founding. The Graham has achieved so much in the last decade, and now I firmly believe there's a very strong foundation for the future. I'm so proud of the high quality work being done there, and I'm always just inspired by the energy. You walk into the Graham and the energy is palpable. I'll be getting back to Don Graham later, but I also want to start by acknowledging his far-reaching vision. So more than a decade ago, he recognized not just the critical importance of sustainability, it's obviously something that's key to our world, but he saw it as something that universities like Michigan need to take seriously. It's the kind of problem that a university with the sort of breadth of excellence that Michigan has can really tackle by bringing that breadth to bear, by sharing perspectives, by working on what I've learned from the Graham folks to call these wicked problems of environmental sustainability. That vision led to the Graham Institute and all that it has achieved. There are a lot of other people to thank. I want to start by thanking the advisory board members. You've all been so generous with your time, your ideas, your contacts, your financial support. You have been absolutely key to this past decade of development of the Graham. And frankly, I've always enjoyed my meetings with you. You've challenged me quite a lot. And you've challenged the university quite a lot to do more. Yes, Steve, I do mean you and others. But that's good and that's important, and it's made us better and it's made the Graham better. I want to thank our research partners who come from industry, from government, from nonprofits. You've been directly engaged stakeholders, and as such you've strengthened the work, you've kept it grounded in reality, and you've helped assure that real solutions are being created. The faculty. Can all the University of Michigan faculty raise their hands? So I really want to thank the faculty for doing what Michigan faculty do so well, world-class research and world-class teaching. You're developing ideas and understandings about new ways to create a sustainable planet, and equally importantly, you're training the students who will carry that understanding forward. All right, now students, you raise your hand. Lots of students, which is great. You're the ones, so the advisory board challenges me, but the students challenge all of us. You ask the thought-provoking questions, you push the boundaries. You don't worry about how it's always been done. Maybe you don't know how it's always been done, but that's okay, because you push us, and like all Michigan students, you've shown an incredible capacity for hard work that makes a difference in the world. Of course, the staff, who are the unsung heroes of universities. It's the staff's dedication to the Graham Institute that's enabled it to thrive. And finally, it really is a real pleasure for me to introduce and to thank Don Scavia. Don has a distinguished record of scholarship in sustainability, and he's an able and effective leader. He's worked to make the Graham a major player, and he's succeeded in making the Graham a major player in the sustainability space. For example, he championed integrated assessments, a term I've come to know and love. I didn't know it until I met Don. It's this interdisciplinary approach to these wicked problems, and it's so in sync with Michigan's long-standing strength in bringing together different disciplinary perspectives. He's recognized the importance of partnerships at every stage of the process, developing collaborative solutions to complex problems that you can't solve without these partnerships and these collaborations. Let me give you just a few examples of his accomplishments. I think one of the most significant is the Water Center. It was Don's connections that made the Water Center a reality. It's now involved more than 40 faculty and 60 students and has received over $30 million in commitments for applied work on Great Lakes and national estuaries. He's led a whole bunch of other projects, including an assessment of Pipeline 5 in the Straits of Mackinac. He's done significant work on the implications of and potential responses to algae blooms in Lake Erie. And he's led in a number of campus sustainability efforts for which he received a national award for campus sustainability excellence. Now, that's a long list of accomplishments, but as they say in TV, wait, there's more. While director of the Graham, to me this is completely amazing. I was just talking with someone about, like, how do you have any time to do anything? Somehow or other, even while he's been director of the Graham, Don has continued his work as a scholar. He graduated 5 PhD students from SNRE and the College of Engineering. He advised 21 master's students. He mentored 13 postdocs and 3 research assistants. He was author or co-author on more than 64 papers in the peer-reviewed literature. He served as 2 National Academy panels, as well as on a number of other government and NGO advisory committees. And he's been special counsel on sustainability to the University of Michigan president. And I happen to know that in addition to all of this, he's been an incredibly devoted grandfather. So, Don, I just want to thank you for all you've done. Let's give Don a round of applause. And I'm now going to let Don come back up to the microphone. I think it's very fitting that he's going to introduce our student speakers because that exemplifies his commitment to empowering the next generation.
Thanks, Martha. You know, it is the students. You know, we support a lot of faculty to do a lot of really important things, but it's been an amazing path with the students. We have supported 1,400 students in 10 years. And it is the next generation. That's what's going to save us from what we've created and what we've done to this planet. The students are really what's going to make a difference. We have 3 students that are going to talk to you a little bit about their experience at you know, Martha's the only person that refers to us as the Graham. Yeah. It's kind of nice. That's right. You like it, Don? Yeah. We're the Graham Institute, but we're the Graham. That's good. That's right. So you're going to get a sampling of the 1,400 in 3. We have an undergraduate, a current doctoral student, and an alum that's going to just talk to you a little bit about what they've done, what their view is of the institute. So first, Lelo Galuma. Lelo, who are you? Hello. Okay. So Lelo's a senior in the program in the environment and in international studies. She's also a Graham undergraduate scholar, and most important to us, she's a research assistant in our office. Come on up.
Hello, everyone. So as Don said, I am a senior here at the University of Michigan, and I'm also a Graham Scholar. So to tell you a little bit about what the Graham Scholars Program has meant to me is that opportunity can truly change someone's life. So first I'm going to talk a little bit about myself. I'm from East Lansing, Michigan, so Spartan country is one of my homes, but Ethiopia is another home of mine. Yeah, some people feel some type of way about East Lansing. But that's all right. So I'm a child of 2 immigrants from Ethiopia, and I've grown up with that culture. And as a young adult, I try to reconcile what it means to be Ethiopian and what it means to be American. I first traveled to Ethiopia when I was 17, during the period of time right after high school, but right before college. During that time, I met my extended family, so my cousins, my aunts, my uncles, all of that great stuff. And as you can imagine, it was incredibly thought-provoking and challenging. So fast forward a little bit to my first year, I came across a quote by Nicholas Kristof. Nicholas Kristof in Half of the Sky said that everyone has talent, but not everyone has opportunity. And that resonated with me because I thought of my cousins in Ethiopia. All of them have immense talent. But what makes my life so much different from theirs is the opportunity that we're presented with. So for me, I'm talking about education. Here I have the opportunity for bountiful education, especially at the University of Michigan. In Ethiopia, their lives depend on the land, they're farmers. So education is not necessarily the forefront of their experience. So that's something that struck me, and I began thinking about that. So that's when I decided that it's my duty to utilize the opportunities that I have here in the service of others. So I came across the Graham Scholars Program during my sophomore year as a student, of course, and also from previous students in the program. They encouraged me to apply. They told me about the great interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary aspects of the program, which intrigued me as studying both international and environmental science. So I applied to the program and was very happy to be accepted. And being a part of the program has been both academically and personally fulfilling. So academically in the sense that I'm able to learn from wonderful students that are here in the audience and broaden my own sense of what it means to be sustainable or sustainability and how it can apply to me, but also personally fulfilling for my experience in the program and being able to go abroad. So this past summer, I was able to go back to Ethiopia working through the Graham Experiential Learning Fund. This time working, I was able to work with a program that implements poverty alleviating programs just outside of Addis Ababa and conceptualize what it means to be a member of the diaspora and work in the country, what it means to utilize my opportunities in the service of others, because that's a very broad concept, but what does that look like on the ground? So now that I've returned from that experience, I have decided the best way for me to move forward in that is to pursue a master's in public health. Thank you. So I want to pursue that degree because I think that there are many connections between both the environment and health and using it as a method towards sustainable development. So just to sum up, what I'm saying is that I would not have realized that if it weren't for the Experiential Learning Fund and being able to go back to Ethiopia and work. So I'm very thankful for the Institute and for Donald Graham for that opportunity and experience. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Lowell. You know, we have 50 of those a year in the program. It's so exciting. So next up is Kevin Benke. Kevin got his bachelor's degree in biology here at U of M. He's currently a PhD student in the School of Public Health, and I think you've been involved in the program forever and in a bunch of different ways. He's also a Dow Sustainability Fellow. Kevin.
Thanks, Don. So I was going to talk a little bit about my journey to getting to this point, and then a little bit about the things that I've learned through the Institute and how that's influenced my development as a scholar. So after I graduated with my bachelor's in biology, I started working at NSF International, which is a local company here, and I was testing water filters and their ability to remove different contaminants. And at the same time, I started a big vegetable garden at my house and keeping chickens. And as I was doing these things, I realized how vital water was to everything we do as humans and everything we hold dear in society. So we obviously need it for food, for industry, and just to drink every day. And so that led me to think about the value of protecting the potable water sources that we have both in Michigan and globally. So with this in mind, I decided that I would go back to school and wanted to do research that was focused on water quality and then policy related to that. And after searching for a while, I found a good mentor match at the School of Public Health with my advisor, Dr. Wu Shi. Yes. And Wu had an ongoing project in Lima in Peru that was dealing with water contamination with Helicobacter pylori, which is a bacteria that causes the vast majority of stomach cancer in this world. And he was applying for funding through an integrated assessment through the Graham Institute of Sustainability. And so I worked with him on this proposal, and when it was accepted, I knew I had found a good home for my thesis work. This integrated assessment framework was really appealing to me because of the way it tied in multiple perspectives from all different walks of society. So We had the academics from U of M, as well as clinicians, community members, and policymakers from Lima. So we had this dynamic interplay between us as scholars and then all these people whose lives were actually being affected by the work that we were doing. And this was appealing because it was couched in the real world. So it wasn't that we were doing science and that was it, is that we were trying to do something that was directly affecting people's lives. And so this was very appealing to me as well, because as I was going through this process, I realized the complexity of this kind of work. As scientists, we can come up with new technologies, we can publish papers, we can put out frameworks of how to deal with a problem scientifically, but that's not actually necessarily all that is needed to change the way we as a society approach an issue as complex as clean water. We need to pull in people from government, from industry, from communities, as well as the scholarly community, and pull in all those perspectives to build consensus about how to come up with a policy or a solution that will fit everybody and actually bring the entire world up, opposed to just a select few. And so this realization led me in new directions. And actually the flexibility provided by the Graham Institute, which, as Don said, has supported me throughout my PhD since its very inception through when it ends this following year. So I was able to engage in all kinds of scientific outreach activities, including blogging, which was my personal favorite. And through blogging and talking about the process of science and society and the human element of science, I was able to get a better understanding of what it was that I was doing and what it was that I wanted to do moving forward. So getting that lens of the integrated assessment was really helpful in my development as a scientist, as a scholar, and ideally as somebody who will have an impact in this world. So thanks so much to the Institute and to Don for helping me get here.
Thanks, Kevin. And now to prove that there's life after the Graham Institute. Next up is Jeremy Guest. Jeremy, there you are. Okay. So Jeremy got his PhD in environmental engineering here at U of M. He's now an assistant professor of civil and environmental engineering at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. Last month, he got awarded the 2016 Paul Bush Award for Innovation in Applied Water Quality Research from the Water, Environment, and Reuse Foundation. When he was here, he was a Graham Sustainability Doctoral Fellow. In fact, he started before I did, I think. Yep. One other thing, I was actually on his committee, so we had a bunch of different connections. So, and he also drove 5 hours to get here for this, so thank him.
Well, thank you very much, everybody, for coming and for the opportunity to speak. When I started at University of Michigan, I was starting my PhD. My background had been in conventional wastewater treatment. And what that means is basically everything you put down the drain, we don't have to go into detail, but everything goes down the drain, it goes to a treatment plant, and we expend enormous amounts of energy and chemicals to treat it like it's this hazardous product, and then we discharge it to rivers to get to the ocean. And that always left me wanting. I didn't really think that didn't seem right, because wastewater has nitrogen and phosphorus that we can put back in agriculture. It has the potential for bioenergy production, and it has water, which we need in so many places. And that's not the way we looked at it in the industry. And so when I started at Michigan, I was fortunate enough, right when I started, to become a Graham Doctoral Fellow. And I got, that really did two things for me. So I'm going to talk about the impact this really had on me and my career. And so first, it gave me the freedom. It gave me the time and freedom to really focus on this issue. What does sustainability mean in the context of wastewater management? Something I was really passionate about. And the second thing it did is it put me in a room with the Graham Doctoral Fellows. Put us in a room lots of times. And these are fellows from across campus, from sociology, from public health, from chemistry, from law, and engineering. And we were able to sit in a room and talk about the grand challenges we were trying to solve and the methods we were using to solve them. And people attacked these problems from totally different angles. Everybody had a different perspective on how to solve even the same challenge. And so when I had started, I had trouble, and the industry had trouble, articulating what sustainable wastewater management meant. But through these meetings, through this community of scholars that we developed with the other PhD fellows, and so cherish this, okay, right? Ultimately, I was able to leverage that, and in my first kind of doctoral paper, the first paper I wrote, it was basically outlining a vision for sustainable wastewater management and a planning and design process to get us there. And so that was my first contribution from my dissertation. And now that paper has been cited about 180 times, including by leading industry reports that outline what the utility of the future should look like. And over the last 3 years, I've had the privilege of getting invited to Washington, D.C. to participate in workshops held by the National Science Foundation, U.S. Department of Energy, U.S. EPA, to outline the next steps that need to happen to make it a reality. And fortunately, I've been named to working groups, international working groups as the North American representative to make it a global reality. And so all of this stemmed from this first contribution and that room that we would sit in with the other Graham Fellows as somebody from chemistry or public health would talk about sustainability, and I had no idea what they were talking about because we used totally different language and it had a totally different perspective. But over time, we developed into this community of scholars, and we all got better for it. And so it's had a tremendous impact on my career, on the contribution I've been able to have, and the contribution my students will have as I help them point their passion towards impactful work. And for that, I'm incredibly grateful. And at the same time, this community of scholars, the good news is, like, it can live on. So I still collaborate with other Graham Doctoral Fellows who are faculty at Rutgers in sociology and NYU in environmental sciences and University of Colorado Boulder in civil and environmental engineering and UIUC in natural resource and environmental sciences. And so this community, like, you can leverage it for the rest of your careers. So when I got the opportunity to come back, I wanted to seize it. I wanted to come in particular to say thank you. Thank you for the vision, for the generosity to establish this institute, and to everybody who continues to contribute to help put students in positions to be successful, not just during their time at Michigan, but in their careers. So thank you.
Thanks, Jeremy. Before I turn it back to Martha, there's a point that I think is important to make. So all three of these examples talked about an application. They talked about actually dealing with the real world and dealing with solving real world problems. And one of the tenets of the Institute was that our main purpose was to help solve social problems, which is different than a lot of institutes that are created at universities. Often they're created in order to help seed faculty so they can get the next NSF grant or the next DOE grant. And that's really important, and hopefully some of the work that we've supported have helped them to do that. But our primary focus is to try to help solve social problems. And people often think, well, you know, university faculty don't like to do that. You know, they like to work in the ivory tower and that sort of thing. But we've actually engaged 400 University of Michigan faculty working on these applied problems. And so even at the University of Michigan, which sometimes is claimed that we're in the ivory tower, 400 faculty members have been engaged in the Institute trying to solve social problems. And I think that's a really important thing for us to remember. So, back to you, Martha.
So do we have great students at the University of Michigan, or do we have great students at the University of Michigan? Great students. You know, the work of our students and so many others is possible because of the vision that Don Graham brought to Michigan a decade ago. He challenged us to think in new ways about sustainability, to recognize the complexity of the problems, which require the bringing together of multiple disciplinary perspectives from across campus, to engage partners from other sectors, and to develop viable solutions. This is what Don was just talking about, that are based on rigorous research but also have stakeholder support. The Graham Institute, or the Graham as we fondly refer to it, today is a testament to the clarity of your vision, Don. Its research activities are broadly and deeply interdisciplinary. Nearly all of our schools and colleges have been engaged, 16 out of 19 to be exact. And even within those schools, we've involved scholars from multiple disciplines. And its educational programs have developed a cadre, dare I say it, of leaders and best in the area of sustainability at all levels. You saw that from undergraduate to graduate to postdoctoral. They came to the Graham from a whole bunch of different disciplines, and they developed expertise in sustainability, along with those very critical skills in working across disciplinary boundaries. The Institute has accomplished so much in 10 years. I mean, I really can't even begin to enumerate all it's achieved. So I'm going to, again, just give two examples. I mentioned the Water Center previously. The Graham Institute has been a leader in studying and developing policy around water, but especially for the Great Lakes. Here we are in Michigan. It's developed science-based policy that integrates decision makers and end users into the process, ensuring that the results have practical applications. And here's one example within the example of water. I think one, just as an example of many, I could have pulled out many, an incredibly interesting and valuable project done within the Graham Institute has been the digitization of environmentally sensitive geospatial information that enables effective responses to hazardous spills under very rapidly changing conditions. A second key area of focus I'd like to point out is climate change, where the Graham Institute has developed ways to help communities assess the impacts of climate change, improve their access to information, develop effective adaptations, and importantly, train people to do all this work. With public and private partners, the Graham Institute developed a protocol for evaluating the vulnerability of urban infrastructure to climate change. And it worked with tribal groups. I think this is, again, so interesting. Worked with tribal groups to integrate traditional ecological knowledge with the work of university scientific community, forging mutually respectful and appreciative relations. All of this demonstrates the broad power of Don Graham's vision, a vision in which stakeholders from industry, from foundations, government, local communities, nonprofits, and advocacy organizations all want to be involved, where the Institute provides the space for them to work together, learn from one another, and move forward collaboratively. And the concrete accomplishments of the Institute then have secured the foundation for these various groups to go on and continuing working together. So tonight we celebrate the founding gift of the Institute, which was made by Don and Ingrid. That gift and the vision behind it changed the university, no question, changed the university. It made us better able to fulfill our mission, and many of you know the university's mission statement. It's this: to serve the people of Michigan and the world through the creation and application of knowledge, and to develop leaders and citizens who will challenge the present and enrich the future. As we honor the Grahams this evening, we also salute a number of others whose support has helped create such a vibrant sustainability community, and I'm pleased to recognize a number of them. The Erb family and the Erb Family Foundation. The Dow Chemical Corporation. Okay, and now I have a really, really long list, so let's hold our applause till the end. But they all deserve applause, but we'll do it at the end. The Kresge Foundation, the Wege Foundation, our research partners, including the Environmental Defense Fund, the Natural Wildlife Foundation, the Nature Conservancy, the Ford Motor Company, and the General Electric. So let's give all of those organizations. And finally, I want to thank everyone who's here this evening. I want to thank you for your dedication to the hard work of moving us a little bit closer to a sustainable world. I want to thank you for your devotion to the Graham Institute. Your commitment to the Institute's success is what's going to enable it to be sustainable, to sustain itself to the next decade and beyond. Don, can you come up here? On behalf of the university, I want to extend the thanks for all you've done for the Graham Sustainability Institute. It's been such a central part of our work in sustainability. That work is of enormous benefit, not only to our faculty and students, but to the world beyond the campus. We have for you just this token of appreciation, and we have copies of these for all your children, too.
Oh, okay.
So a
Well,
round of applause.
you realize how many I've got. Thank you.
Do you want to say anything?
I could say a couple words. But first, I was going to say a few words, but you know, you learn a few things when you're as old as I am, 83, and that is that what I say would make a lot more sense if you all wandered over and had another glass of wine while I was talking here. I find that works real well. But I did, you know, in the in the early 2000s now, I after talking to several deans and a lot of other people, came to the realization that if we were going to move forward in sustainability at the University of Michigan, as I felt and others felt we should, we needed to have a university-wide collaborative activity with faculty and students across the entire university. That got me talking to the then provost, Paul Courant, and Paul and I kept meeting and deciding this was a good idea, and then going back to our day job, and nothing happened. And about in 2003, I said, okay, I got an idea. Let me just fund a study. Let's get somebody who's going to 24/7 think about this goddamn thing and what we ought to do, so we don't stop, we can stop meeting every 6 months and deciding it's a good thing to do, and then go back to our day job. And fortunately, an individual that's in the room tonight, Ken Kors, was available. He'd worked with the Tauber Institute. We'd been together on the National Advisory Board at the engineering school. You'd worked with my brother at Ford Motor Company. Came in and took on a study with really two objectives in mind. First of all was to determine what's going on here at the University of Michigan in sustainability and environmental studies. And secondly, what are the competitors, what are the other universities that are well-known, that are really have traction in this area? What are they doing, and can we benchmark them to decide what we ought to do? All of that led to some very interesting results. First of all, we were literally amazed at how much was going on in the field here at the university already in 2003 and 2004. Secondly, we were very much surprised at the lack of any collaboration or understanding, or everybody was kind of on their own track, and we therefore, from my view, we're not picking the low fruit and maximizing what we had. We really had opportunity here, and other universities that had developed leading roles in the field had already developed mechanisms for cross-disciplinary effort to effectively tackle these broad-based interdisciplinary problems that we find in the field. That led us to the conclusion that it was going to have to be the leadership had to come from the provost's office or from the president, or certainly not from any given school, because we could see the turf wars that are there, and this is not just in academia. When we try to do anything corporate-wise, we have to pull it out. If it's in one department, the other, it just doesn't work. So that led in 2005 to the funding of the Graham Institute with really two basic things in mind. One was to help build sustainability into the DNA of the University of Michigan. And the second was to help the UM become a leader and best in the field by really moving the needle and promoting collaboration across all parties that were involved. And here we are 10 years later, and with Don's leadership and the help of countless people, many in this room tonight, I think we've made some really significant strides. I was going to mention some of those, such as the managing of 1,300 students and provided funding. I think that's been mentioned. I had a couple of other things here in terms of, but I think Martha and Don have both covered them, and I don't want to repeat them, so I'll just skip over that. But one of the more important things is the funding. This couldn't happen without money, because unfortunately, the way you get collaboration is with a little seed money here and a little seed money there. You don't just, that's just the way it is. And fortunately, the Graham Institute, during this 10-year period, has either through gifts or grants raised $90 million. And that's a lot of money that's going in. And I think it was mentioned, but I believe, Don, that we've touched 18 of the 19 schools in either funding for students or faculty. So even though there's no national ranking that I could find, like Business Week's or the engineering or whatever, U of M now is generally regarded as one of the leaders in the field, and we certainly weren't a decade ago. And we have the gold ranking from the Association for the Advancement of Sustainability in Higher Education. We've really come a long ways, and I'd like to thank Don personally. I'd like to thank our staff, and I'd like to thank the board. It goes on, many other people in this room for that accomplishment. Recognizing that, though, we also have to recognize there's a lot yet to be done. There's still turf wars. It's going to require a lot more funding to keep this going in the future. And I know the Provost Office is committed to getting the whole structure of sustainability right throughout the university. And with that in hand, the Graham Institute's challenge will be to determine how it will play its role and what success will look like over the next 5 to 10 years. We know what success looks like right over the right over the edge there, but it's going to be quite interesting and a challenge ahead. And so let's raise the bar and let's go blue. Okay.
Thanks, Don. I want to also, excuse me. In addition to financial support and vision for the Institute, I want to thank Don for his personal advice. I've learned so much. You've been such a great mentor during these 8 years that I've been here. I won't quote all of his quotes. There's many of them, but unfortunately, my staff will tell you I've used them a lot. So I want to thank you for that. I also want to thank the board, who's been a tremendous partners throughout this whole time period. But most especially, I want to thank the staff of the Graham Institute. It's the best group I have ever worked with. It's been the most fun I've ever had as a leader and as a boss. So I want to thank you all. Raise your hands, folks from the Graham Institute. Thank you. As Martha said, it's staff that make things work. So I have one final announcement that is going to be really cool and exciting, and that is we had to pay the athletic department, but you're allowed to go down onto the field. And so if you want to do that, you can do that now. Now? Is it okay now? Somebody? Yeah? Yes? Okay. Okay. So what you have to do, though, okay, is you have to go out that door, and then you can go down the stairs out into the field and do whatever you want to do down there, score a touchdown and that sort of thing. But you can't leave from down there. You have to come back up here to leave. So that's it. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, everyone that's been involved in the Institute. It's been a great run.